Why did we never get a sequel to Power Rangers 2017? I remember going to the theaters with a buddy of mine back in 2017 when the Power Rangers movie initially came out. I wasn't a big fan of the Power Rangers or anything. I had never seen the show except for a few episodes here and there. I knew what it was about, but I just never grew up with the series, so I had no expectations going into the movie. It is weird looking back now that my first real exposure to Power Rangers was a film that many consider a poor adaptation of the source material that doesn't necessarily live up to the rest of the series. But in all honesty, I enjoyed the film. I had fun, and despite its somewhat inconsistent tone, I still had a good experience. Flash forward almost 9 years since the movie's debut, and I can say I am definitely a fan of Power Rangers, having seen at least a handful of seasons in my adult years. Small tangent here, but does anyone find themselves watching or rewatching shows they didn't click with as kids but totally vibe with as adults? Power Rangers is like that for me. It's almost like my inner child is healing or something. Anyway, with my newfound enjoyment of the franchise as a whole, I couldn't help but wonder why they never made a sequel to the 2017 film. It had all the potential to be a franchise, and they definitely teased new content at the end of the film, and it was reported that the studio at the time was intending on making at least a 6-film story. So, what happened? Well, I did my research so you don't have to, but the simple answer is it all came down to money. Yeah, I never knew this at the time, but Power Rangers 2017 was not a commercial success. It wasn't a critical success or anything like that either, but I've learned that a movie can suck as long as it makes money. Then it can become a franchise. Power Rangers was not one of those cases. With a $100 million budget, the film grossed only $142 million worldwide. And when you take into consideration the budget for marketing and whatnot, which is usually half of the original budget, the film came up short or barely broke even, which is not what you want from the first film in a franchise, and it essentially killed any hope we were going to get a sequel. There was some hope regarding merchandise sales being really good, but I can't substantiate those reports because that information hasn't been made public, but it clearly wasn't enough to sustain the future or potential of a sequel. The failure of the movie led series creator Haim Saban to sell the rights to Hasbro for $522 million. It's actually quite an interesting story. Saban created and owned the series between 1993 to 2001 before selling to Disney, who owned it for 9 years. Saban bought it back in 2010 and held onto the rights until Hasbro acquired it in 2018. Now, with Hasbro at the helm, hope shined through that a sequel could still be made, with the company hiring directors and writers to draft some ideas, even getting Paramount Pictures involved to produce. However, in 2019, Dacre Montgomery, the actor that played Jason in the film, confirmed that Hasbro was indeed following up the first film, but instead of an outright sequel, they would be rebooting the franchise again and not include any of the first film's actors or the original director. The new film brought on Jonathan Entwistle to direct, most famous for his work on I Am Not Okay With This, The End of the Fucking World, and Karate Kid Legends. And Patrick Burleigh to write, whom has had experience writing for other superhero films such as Eternals and Ant-Man and the Wasp. Take that for what it is. The film would have centered on some kind of time travel plot, apparently taking place in the 90s, I guess to nostalgia bait older fans, but I couldn't find much info on this because, surprise, surprise, the movie fell through again. That is, until recently when a reboot was announced to be taking place on Disney+. There are no story details yet, and it is unclear if it's another reboot of the Mighty Morphin series, but it remains to be seen. They've recently released potential casting information, however. And interesting enough, I learned that the creative team behind the current reboot is the team behind the new Percy Jackson and the Olympians series, also on Disney+. That instills at least a 50-50 chance of confidence that this reboot will be somewhat worth it. That depends on how you view that adaptation of Percy Jackson, but I'll leave that as a topic for another day. Let me know in the comments below if I should make a video on the Percy Jackson show, but either way. There's been no new shows announced since they celebrated their 30th anniversary with Cosmic Fury and Once and Always. But that's about it. Let me know what you guys think. Did you like the 2017 reboot? Would you have liked to see a direct sequel? And if not, are you excited for the potential new reboot? My name is Garrett and I like to make content on all sorts of things. If this video intrigued you, drop a like, and if you feel so inclined, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. See ya.